Hello guys, my name is Silk, and today we're looking at my loadouts for all the planes as well as my settings in-game. That's including key bindings, graphic settings, all that stuff. So I guess we'll just get right into it with the settings. That's my profile. So to start with, we'll just go with controls, because that's what a lot of people ask me about. These isn't key bindings, but I run 26% vehicle sense with a 400 DPI, and then there's also there's like an aircraft setting. Maybe they removed it. Yeah, I can't find that anymore. There was an aircraft setting that was... Oh, here. This is by default at 150%, but I turned it down to 100. And that's just personal preference with the 26%. And I don't run USA for vehicles or anything. I don't think that's really that useful, so... Yeah, we gave that a skip. Now, in my gameplay options, this stuff is all pre-preference based, but HUD is on, HUD motion is off. Player created content, that's like emblems stuff, on. Chat log is show because I like the salty chat. Magnified chat, I should put it on just to magnify the salt. Inventory when active. Kill log show all icon plus name, that's all pretty important. You want the kill log on. Score log weapon name, I don't have that on, that doesn't really matter that much. And awards are off, they get in the way, I think. And then I have vehicle seat info and critical messages on. They don't really get in the way, but for some people they do. And then I think this is all default here. Now for my crosshair settings, I like mine all to be like a kind of light blue, including the crosshairs in the plane. I think it just looks nicer, and it's all personal preference. And I keep my glow down to 135% so it doesn't get in the way and it's not like super bright. Here's my hit markers. I like the transition from green to like purple or magenta or whatever. This just works for me, and headshots is black. Yeah, hit markers again, personal preference. You just definitely want to know when you're critting someone. That needs to be pretty obvious. And obviously like a kill standing out really nicely is a pretty big thing as well. And sometimes on like snow maps, having a white hit marker in a plane isn't the best, so I like have mine a full-on green. And armored hit, I almost never even see this, so it's on black, it doesn't really matter. Now for minimap, this stuff is pretty much default until... Actually, this is all default, except it's a bit bigger. And I have show stationary weapons on all. This shows AAs on the map, if they don't have someone in it, I think. And then this is all default here. And as for advanced, this is something that I think a lot of people want. It's plane chase camera roll on off. This makes sure that the ground is always facing the bottom, and like the plane is what's rolling around, not the actual whole screen. This is a really nice setting to have. I definitely recommend it for flying in Battlefield 5, so turn that off. The rest of this is all preference, but I just turn a lot of this stuff off. Now going into audio. If I was in a dogfight server tryharding, I would turn it up to like 90%. But since I play public a lot of the time and haven't been dogfighting, I have it down on 35. And then 3D audios, I think 3D headphones I think is the best audio settings. It gives you a good idea of where planes are when you pass them in head-ons, and it's good for footsteps as well, so I'd recommend that. Now this is all personal preference, but that's what I have for those settings. Now another thing a lot of people ask me about is my video settings, so we'll just go over it quickly. Full screen for less input lag. That's my default monitor. I have two, and I can put it on my other monitor, but I'll only get 144Hz with the second one, whereas I can get 240Hz with the main, so I stick to that. Brightness on 100% because of my config file, which like lowers sun glare. Field of view on 79, which is 95 horizontal for infantry. Max field of view for planes. ADS field of view off. Motion blur on 0%. Depth of field effects off. This is my colorblind settings. It's one of the default ones. I didn't really mess around with that too much. And then all the cinematic effects are off. And then here we have DX12 on. High dynamic range off. Resolution scale is default. This is the frame rate limiter is to monitor refresh rate. That's just to reduce my CPU usage. If it's running at that refresh rate, it doesn't keep on rendering frames. So that's nice to have, especially in a CPU intensive game like Battlefield 5. We have UI upscaling on auto, which is default, and this is off, which is usually on. And here's my graphics settings right here. We have it all low, and I'm experimenting with anti-aliasing right now because I'm not getting rid of anti-aliasing using my config file anymore because I'd rather run DX12. and I'm experimenting between TAA low and TAA high. I think low is better right now, so I'm going to leave it like that. And now we're going to go to the pilot settings. Here are my binds. The only thing I've changed here is space on pitch up, so I can hold down space to turn in a dogfight. I have rear view also on left shift, because I'm used to using shift in dogfights, as it used to be Afterburner, and it wasn't really being used in this current game, so I decided to make it rear view, and it works nicely. Then I made exit vehicle on T, so it's harder to press. Full map is on mouse 3, so I can always have easy access to my map. And then chase camera mouse 4, another side mouse button, and that's just so I can go in and out of cockpit when I'm going for quick angles and I want to aim in a little bit more. The rest of the stuff is all default, I believe, and that is it for my settings. So now we will go over the loadouts for all the planes in Battlefield 5, and as I've said before, if you want to use my config file, you can use that. All you'll have to do, actually you don't have to do anything for that one, you just have to put it in your directory where you have the game installed basically. So I'll link my config file in the description, and yeah, you can get that if you want. Anyways, we'll go into my company now, and I'll show you all the loadouts that I've been using for these planes, and what I believe to be the best for the fighters in Battlefield 5. So we'll get started here with the G2. I like everything on the right here. These cannons, one of them can take out bombers, it's pretty nice to have. Air radar is a good advantage to have in dogfights. It's kind of like a, yeah, it's a bit of a cheat, like you know how to switch every time, like which direction to go. Leading edge is nice to have because it supposedly increases roll rate and maybe turn speed, judging by that description. I haven't tested it enough, but definitely roll rate, and there's nothing else you could have here anyway, because you want to get the rocket pods, because rocket pods are really useful to have against an AA, since you can engage it for a long distance. And then, I don't know if anyone cares, but that's my paint jobs. I don't really have enough money to afford a nose art for the G2, especially because I don't really fly it. Now, here on the G6, we're using the same loadout as before the patch. Alternatively, you can use these, and apparently they are similar performance to the 8x303s. However, I just found more success with the explosive rounds. They are just really consistent, and that's about it. Alternatively, you could maybe take this if you want to play people out with the high altitude, but I don't have problems dogfighting in public servers especially, so I'll just use field repair, explosive rounds, armor fuselage, and the rockets for them long-range AA takedowns or bomber kills, especially because bombers are so much harder. I'll just explain quickly the changes to the meta on the G6. Before, it used to be these for aircraft at close range, the main cannons for long range, and these for infantry, and you use rockets for infantry as well. Now it's a kind of a little bit of a different playstyle you want to take in with the G6. You basically don't use these for anything but infantry. You don't use these for anything but bombers unless you see a clump of infantry, and you use the main cannon for everything. Now finally, I was going to do just fighters, but I've been enjoying the STUKA B2 lately, and I just go all right down here so I can get the border cannon. And these things 3-hit infantry, and they're pretty fun to use, but you need a bit of trigger patience as they do overheat pretty fast. Aside from that, you're forced to use these mines, and they do glitch and kill you in a strafe half the time. So I don't really fly this plane out that much, unfortunately. However, it is really strong. Now to my favorite planes, I'll just be talking about two fighters here. And the only one I really use isn't actually the VB. I don't rate this plane at all anymore. They've basically cut out like a lot of the good like setups that you used to use. So now you're forced to use 50 cals instead of this. You're forced to use maintenance drills instead of field repair. And then this is all what you used to run. But these take so long to reload, the dumbfire missiles, that it's not really... The VB isn't that good anymore. However, this is the loadout I use on it, and I think it's the best one. If you want to use the VB, that is. You could alternatively go for 303s and more fire rate, but I don't really see the point. I'd rather, at that stage, just go for the VA here. And on the VA, I am running just all left, basically. You used to be able to take field repair and bombs, which is what I used to run, but they have nerfed that for no reason at all. So now we are running 250-pound bombs and the 303s, which are the best dogfighting guns in the game. Again, air raid off is just nice to have for awareness. And these are some of the nicer bombs to use. It's pretty easy to aim them in because you're using such a maneuverable aircraft, and they do pretty good damage against like pretty much anything you want to go against, and it's the only way you can counter AAs. So I'll tend to hold these a lot of the time just to deal with an AA. Now, I'm not going to talk about the mosquito, but I will talk about the kind of meta that we're in right now with the planes. Now, for dogfighting, a lot of people kind of say it's G2 greater than VA greater than pretty much everything else. Like, everything else is kind of even off that point. However, again, in public servers, I don't think it matters that much. In public servers especially, the VA is definitely my favorite plane. The reason being is that these cannons are still fairly good against infantry, and with some good like aiming, like you don't have to be that great at aiming, but just with a little bit of trigger patience and like some alright aiming, you can do really well with these 303s against infantry and planes. I don't really run out of ammo with them either, so that's nice to have. Now we have the bombs as well, and they're still pretty strong. And again, the radar is just nice to have. So that's probably the best plane right now. The second best, again, I still think it's the G6. These are really reliable against infantry still, they just don't do any damage. And yeah, it still has rocket pods, so that's alright. Alternatively, maybe I'll get really good at the G2 and learn how to use the mains against infantry and take out 3 guys per strafe with those, but for now, everything else besides those 2 planes is kind of average to me, and I don't really use them much. And again, like planes in general, I'm not really flying them out that much anymore. However, if you wanted to know loadouts and the settings to use for piloting, there you go. Anyways, that's all I wanted to cover with this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.